Nature? What's that? If I'm lonely, look for me in nature. If I'm dying, I get my nature back. So I dive into nature. And you find me in nature. Whenever I feel like I have broken my back by too much sitting. That's a hell of an introduction. And it was spontaneous. I never planned it. You know, I just hit record and started. And this is another one of those Barbarian Lunatic productions. Get ready, do something, move it, breathe fresh air, take a train if you must, right? Do whatever you have to do, but get your ass off the couch and into nature. 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 Find me in nature.
Holy crap, people. Timing is of the essence. You gotta feel what you feel. You gotta do what you do. And when you do you know, you gotta know when to push through. I don't know, I feel like there's somebody that I'm going to meet. And it makes no sense. And I'm still in bare feet. And sometimes you really have to pile up energy or something, right? It's like, you stay inside and you wait. You know, I've done this all my life, basically. You stay inside, then you wait. And you know you want to leave, but you're not sure yet that you want to leave now. And then you just say, I'm gonna leave now. And then you leave. Then you just go. And you just leave. You just go. You just run. You just go fucking nuts on the world. Or with an intent. I have the intent of collecting things, memories, experiences, knowledge about myself, you know, these kinds of things. And if I waste my time to be on the inside, you know, I'm just turning into a pussy. Everybody's already such a pussy.
Wo ist deine Schuhe?
Where do you think they are?
Hast du verkauft bei oder?
Also es ist eine persönliche Entscheidung. Und ich trage keine Schuhe, weil Leute, die Schuhe tragen, haben kaputte Rücken. Und ich heile meinen Körper, indem ich barfuß in die Natur gehe.
Nee, das ist sehr, sehr kalt für dich.
Nein.
Mir aber.
Ja, das ist okay.
Sehr.
Ich lerne von den Leuten, die wissen, was sie tun.
Da musst du selber wissen.
Genau!
Da musst du selber wissen, was du machst.
Ja!
Das ist sehr. Mir ist wirklich sehr, sehr kalt.
Nein.
Das habe ich schon eine Gewohnheit. Bist du schon Gewohnheit, ne? Oder nicht?
Ich bin gesund.
Nicht, wie du krank wirst?
Nein.
Gar nichts. Hammer, da bist du mutig.
Ciao. Hopp, 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 hopp. Okay, that was intense. Normally I don't allow people to touch me. He just touched my face. Fucking insane. Was that important? Who's to say? I cannot say. You know? I cannot say. It's just weird. It's just strange. You know? People are insane. They see you in bare feet, they think you've got a problem. Right? And they talk to you. I mean, she just stroked my cheek. And I just said, you know, what the fuck do you want? I mean, my inner child was like, punch her in the fucking face, you know, that's, sorry, you know. I have to really watch my language. But that's just how I feel sometimes. You know, people make me angry, like incredibly angry. Like it's so condescending to just talk to someone. And this is why I'll just probably carry the camera with me at all times if I do things out in the open, because it keeps people in check. I just gotta take back my own life. I just gotta drop it all into nature. Because people are gonna treat me like I'm insane. Because I am sick of this world that just looks down on me. Right? And tries to tell me what I'm supposed to do, when I'm supposed to do it. You know? It's like, now you're allowed to leave the house, right? Now you're allowed to leave the house. So I don't need a curfew. I put a curfew on myself. You know, if I want to leave the house the way that I am, in bare feet, you know, I mean, you never saw the woman that just came to talk to me. You know, this takes me now a lot of mental strength to not like wipe off my face. But this is what it means to be in a city. This is like, maybe it's half a kilometer, maybe it's 1 kilometer. You know, she like wanted to buy me shoes, and then she was impressed. So you also have to see the transition. You know, if my spirit was weak, you know, if my spirit was weak, I would have allowed her to buy me shoes. And then I would have been like a pet, like, oh, I'm so sorry, you know. And then they would, oh, where are your parents, you know? What the fuck are you talking about? You know, I'm stronger than everyone else that I know. Physically, mentally. Okay? It's an active choice that I'm recording myself. Just to record what's happening to someone who wants to grow. You know, out of this sick society, out of that depression, and he wants to change himself. You have no idea what happened to me. You know, when I said, no longer do I want to be your whatever it is that you think that I am. No longer do I want to be weak and like the rest of them. Because I tried it. No, I wanted to. You know, interesting fun fact. Today I was, wow. You know, that's the best thing. Just run. You know, just run until you're nature and then take your time. Just run until you're nature and then just take your time. Because people are crazy, man. You know, they think I'm crazy. I mean, just look at the life that I'm leading. And they think I'm crazy. You know, I'm not the one driving around with a car to the supermarket or eating so much that I'm really obese. You know, I know how to not eat for, I don't know, like 10 hours. And then I'm still, you know, relatively friendly. You know, I can consciously engage with whatever people think, you know, being hangry is. You know, it's like angry because of hunger. Yeah, shit. I mean, what do you think people felt back in the days, or people still feel today? You know, it's like, you're hangry? What the fuck does that even mean? You're hangry? And then, you know, you study, I meet these people. They do like science, right? Oh yeah, I'm hangry. You know, what's science but playing around? You know, science is just playing around. You think you know better. I'm just saying. I mean, I lived in South Africa. I'm not saying, you know, and it was in that sense for science, but it was more for myself. It was more for myself. I actually did a good job there. Believe me. A year ago, I would have probably told her to leave me alone. And I'm really trying to work on the F word. But it's just, you know, I'm a fan of expression. And if I want to express strong emotions, then sometimes the way to go is by using the F word. Now I can just say fudge, but in the end it's just a word. So what really happened, I mean, she was just a concerned mother, right? She just really seemed concerned about me. But believe me when I say that a year ago or a few months ago, I would have probably said, you know, I would have shouted, I would have, you know, said something discriminating. But now I didn't do that. So I'm grateful, you know, that I was allowed to make all of these experiences and to grow and to learn and to, you know, peek a poke at living. Because I know what it's like in other countries. And I know what it's like. I mean, in South Africa, it's relatively normal. You know, people feel cold when they see me in bare feet. That's when people see me, you know, as they see themselves in me and they think, oh, that poor guy, he doesn't even have any shoes. She literally wanted to give me shoes. Could have probably said thank you, you know, but I kind of stood my ground. I tried to express, because it was so full of energy, right? I mean, you know, I don't look sick. Nobody can confuse me for somebody who's sick. Nobody can ever confuse me for somebody who's sick unless they project their own sickness onto me because I'm such a good mirror. You know, if I'm really open, that's what'll happen. So also I have to close off myself. Yeah, there's parts of me that are vulnerable. And what I really wanted to talk about in this episode, I don't know why, there's always this name in my head, Ludmilla. Ludmilla. And it's a name, you know, from my school days. And the truth is, I have no idea who that was. Like, she always wore really thick, yeah, actually, oh God, now I'm back in this. I'm so self-absorbed. I think I'm just gonna do this, because you don't have to see me all the time, right? That's just what I think. I think you don't have to see me all the time. But I sometimes feel like, you know, I have to give people something of myself. But, you know, if I'm honest, I often don't feel like giving people what they want. I want to give what I can. And the only thing that I can truly give is through a camera, is experiences and just the presence of someone who may understand what it's like to want to change, and then people coming trying to dump their shit onto you. You know, their shit is shoes. I mean, this woman was fairly big, you know, in terms of circumference, which is a clear sign for, I don't know, I don't think you understand diet, right? But it seems like you understand the couch, and that's just judgment from my side. So, but that's my anchor point. I know how I look like, you know, I'm like a samana. You know, if you know anything about, you know, whatever Indian culture or these terms, I just read, you know, the only thing I know about this is I listened to Ramdas and I listened to the audiobook called Siddhartha. And there's people that are called samanas and they are in the forest a lot. In Africa, nobody would go to a samana, which is then just someone who comes from nature and he's in bare feet. I think nobody would go there because they would be recognized as the elders. And the elders come from nature. And that's your ancestors. And your ancestors come from nature. You know, I came here actually for a mission, and the crow is reminding me of it. Now, what we can think about is what science does. Science is a very juvenile attempt to control, you know, everything, nature and whatever. You know, we create these things that nobody needs, and then we think we ought to, you know, we always have to act like we need these things such as shoes. And then people come and, you know, there's no other word than just to say it's condescending. It's just condescending. And it just makes so many experiences, and I understand them on such a different level. But today I also felt like, I don't know, I felt a bit weird about myself. But at the same time, I know what I'm doing. You know, I want to be heard. And I'm in Germany at the moment. And so you just try to boost whatever you're doing. You know, you just try to reach a lot of people. And one of the ways, you know, you can reach out to people is by talking. Certainly. But just advertising your ideas and your mentality for life. But, you know, in a city like this, you know, I'm like maybe 1%, maybe 0.05%. You know, I'm the minority. But if the minority is strong, and this minority is certainly stronger in terms of will and, you know, ability to be true, and I don't know, just this emotional warfare that is going on is very intimidating. That's what I see. And if I want to be true to myself and to my message, then I sometimes have to make a pact. Because if I want to reach people, you know, and nobody contacts me because nobody knows I exist, then I have to make an effort to have people recognize me. because I can talk on several levels. You know, I can go deep into, you know, woman nature and the self and emotions, but I can also call the radio and just say something, you know, random about, not random, but about climate change. And it's interesting because apparently there's some kind of Black Friday ahead. And, you know, for all I know, I just blew somebody's mind. I mean, she saw a guy in bare feet. She thought he needed help. It's like, oh, why? You know, it looked like she almost wanted to give me her shoes. And I was like, no, I don't need them. You know, I thought about wearing shoes before I left the house, you know, don't get me wrong. This is just something I have to go through. Right, I do struggle, but so does everyone. But don't take away my suffering, because one reason why I take off my shoes is also because I want to suffer. You know, not in that sense, you know, I want to suffer through, you know, I just want to let go of these emotions. And, you know, maybe I just took something from her. I don't know why she touched my skin, why she touched my cheek. Maybe she just thought, oh wow, you know. Because when I observe myself in these recordings that I make, I always think, you know, I can't help it. As however dirty I may feel, you know, my skin feels clean. But that also showed me something else. I mean, I let her get very close to me. Why did I allow this? Why did I not say, stop touching me, woman? Because I thought she was already carrying a lot. And I just don't want to be, you know, if you think somebody's condescending and you treat them, then in the same way that you think they treat you, then you're just like them. And one of the messages that is very clear to me is, I don't know, just choose you. Chicken was never me, but it was good that I tried it. Well, it doesn't mean I cannot eat chicken, but it means that eating chicken comes with a cost. You know, it's just the amount of ignorance that we allow ourselves to think that a chicken that is raised in such conditions could give you strength. I mean, you can never eat something like a chicken from mass production and think it would give you strength. Because, you know, the chicken was weak. And so the only thing you're gonna get from a weak chicken, you know, is weak chickens. And then you can eat, you know, 100 chickens. Or chicken, I don't know, chickens. And it would never give you the same strength that a chicken would give you, you know, that was just free in nature, right? It could never give you the same strength as a chicken that was free in nature. I mean, I've seen chickens that were raised in Africa outside. They had strong feet, they were tough, they were running around, roaming for their own things. But then they had shelter for the night, right? Because of snakes and all of that, and you know, all these predators that they have, like art, wolf, right? And possibly hyenas or whatever. So, I mean, they were tough. If you would have set that chicken on the ground, it would have just run away and you would have never caught it again. Or you would have had a hell of a time. But so I just remember how the first chicken, the second one we got in Africa was actually was one from a chicken that was coming from caged conditions, so it was just a chicken for egg production. And we got it, and the message was, you know, it couldn't even walk. It couldn't even walk. So how are you supposed to get strength from an animal if the animal doesn't even have enough strength to walk? Right? So that's just the way it is. And that's why also I think we have to eat so much. You know, that's why fast food will never really satisfy you, because unless the food is being made with love. So, you know, I think you can buy a chicken that comes from the store, you know, that's what I think. It's just what I think. And if you make the chicken with love and you prepare it, but you would probably have to add an incredible amount of, you know, spirit to transform this. But if you would go to nature and you would hunt your own chicken, you know, it would be much more satisfying and much healthier. You know, I don't think meat is bad, but what I'm saying is that, you know, I also talk in the way that everyone talks, and everyone I meet, they just talk phony. They either try to sound really masculine or they just talk like little children. I'm just glad that I could make the choices that I did with the upbringing that I had, but at the same time, I'm a survivor. And I'm just working with what I have. And we're living in times where things are different. So, you know, if I would have born into a different kind of family where, you know, I could not have had help from my parents to do this kind of thing, which I still believe can benefit a lot of people, to just see if you want to be spiritual and you want to awaken and you want to be true to yourself, and you think, you know, okay, I want to walk barefoot now. And then maybe it's winter or maybe it's summer, it doesn't really matter, and you think, hey, I'm just gonna go for a barefoot hike. And maybe you are in an environment where you first have to take the tram or the train, or you have to go through, I don't know, forests, and then people come and they try to give you shoes. I mean, basically, I mean, in a way, she was trying to worship me. You know, she wanted to give me shoes. If I would have asked for shoes, she would have given them to me, but I just said, hey, you know, I'm fine. You know, I'm being taken care of. You know, I think it's better to worry about yourself than to walk around and worry about others. Because she could have certainly worried a bit about herself. I mean, she was a good woman. And because what I saw was she was just concerned. And you know, I mean, if you get angry because your mother is trying to get you to choose a present for Christmas, I mean, just understand where your mother is coming from. She has something to give, and she would like to give it to her son. You know, is it a sign of weakness to say, okay, I could say, leave me alone, woman. Just a second. So, is it a sign of weakness? Yeah, you know what that was, right? I just had to pee. You know, it's just, please show me something else in a while, you know, I don't want to see your face anymore. Okay, you know, I'll just do this. So, you know, I'm just walking with transitions, and if I'm in my comfort zone, you know, and I feel like I'm dreading the moment where I will leave the house and it will be cold because it's winter, you know, and the weather seems lousy from caged conditions perspective, then actually leaving the house and going for a hike, you know, turns into an act of courage, which is something somebody that lives in a village would never have. Simply because, you know, he never has to make that transition. I mean, if you live in the Amazon rainforest, then the only thing that separates you from the Amazon rainforest, you know, is like 2 centimeters of fabric, or like a very airy hut. You know, you don't have 30 centimeters of brick wall and, you know, plastic insulation and stuff. You know, you don't have electronics to keep you busy, which is why when you get bored, you know, you just go and collect firewood, or you just join people that are cooking, you know, that kind of stuff. And that's just my whole point. I mean, the transition from the me that's inside rendering videos and watching movies, you know, I just watched Steam Boy, which is an anime, which sometimes it annoys me so much to watch these things. Yeah, this is actually public, or they open it to the public, but I just think it's a form of respect to not film this, because it's actually private. It's called Schloss Neunhof, you know. You know, maybe this will bring millions of followers to hike here, and you know, then I'm gonna ruin this whole city because of tourists. But yeah, I mean, that's the respect I can give here. Oh wow! It says, wow, they sell wild meat. It says. I think that's what it says. So my whole point is, if you want to do something, you got to do it, or else it will never be done. You see? It's just a different way of communicating. And so I have something in my mind, I want to express it, words come out, and suddenly I said something. And then, you know, I may try to repeat it, but that's already a challenge to remember what I say, because I just say so much. And still I can remember. Wow, what is this place? They really have a barber shop. It's called Curly. You know, right now I don't want to be trapped. I don't want to be trapped doing this. It looks so nice. I mean, literally. Curly, you know, Schloss Neunhof, you know. If you're ever in the area from Australia, because you think we've got better stuff than you do, which is impossible. Plus, of course, you always have to think, you know, for yourself. Because if you travel, speak to the elves, right? Speak to the elves, but what should I speak to them about? You know, one of the ideas I had, and why I wanted to... Okay, now I want to film myself, because that's my anchor point, right? I am my anchor point. And now I just want to talk to you about psychedelics. It's just what I have in mind. Because I'm serious about, you know, I'm not talking to you to tell you to do anything. That's always how I start. Because it is possible that this channel will get a certain amount of attention. And I just like to keep my predictions up to date. I don't know. I make no predictions because, I don't know. Truth is kind of still a bit wobbly. And if things are happening, I just focus on what I'm doing. And that's basically what, you know, to remember what are you here for? What are you doing? So let's say you're in the middle of a psychedelic experience, you know, we're not talking about taking it, you know, or thinking that you have to take it. We're talking about you're in the middle of a psychedelic experience. What are you going to do? You know, my whole life turned out to be a psychedelic experience, and whether or not I take psychedelics, I feel the same way. If I go into nature, if I fast for long times, I feel the same way that I felt when I did ayahuasca. You know, maybe not the whole like, but I remember it. Once you've had a psychedelic experience, it's impossible to erase it. It's impossible. You know, you may have been granted a perspective on life. And then the question is, okay, how am I going to, what's the teaching, right? That's what you have to focus on. What is the teaching to you personally? Okay, last time, I just want to talk to you about what I did. I made a tea from fly agaric. Absolutely can never recommend this. Terrible choice. Because I'm still, several weeks later, trying to understand what just happened there. What I entered into, and now I have to also say, please never follow any of what I say. Never, ever. I'm just recording what I'm experiencing, so that when people go along and they say, yeah, I had an awesome trip with Amanita muscaria, or with LSD, or with ayahuasca, you know, you should do it. It changed my life. Never listen to somebody who only highlights the good parts. Because what I felt when every time, yes, there was this world, it was like the fairyland, it's like, you know, call them elves. But there's also the, you know, the dark crystal kind of thing. You know, the weird, distorted beings of Krull. Good movie. Krull. Swamp monsters. You know, I mean, what I talk about is real. I haven't taken anything for some time now. It's true. But when I walk alone through the night home, you know, I can see things that if I would, you know, try to touch it, you know, that's what I said. You know, I was thinking maybe he's gonna come out of the shadows. But who was he? You know, I clearly felt somebody looking at me, and he was wearing glasses, and he looked like somebody I know. But what was he doing? Looking at me like this. So it's hard to explain is what I'm trying to say. Because I see and perceive very clearly. And when I'm in the presence of others, you know, their intent is also very clear to me, you know. You know, the Aborigines say this is the dream. We're dreaming. And I get it. It certainly seems surreal to me. And just looking at myself and then comparing myself with the people that I meet on the streets that try to tell me I should wear shoes. I mean, who in his right mind, if he could say what being barefoot has done for my life, who in his right mind would ever say that to someone? Who would go to someone who walks around wearing a beard? You know, and stands there like this, in such an outfit. You know, who would come and talk him into whatever, and stroke his cheeks like, what the fuck are you talking about, woman? You know, if somebody comes so close, you know, you want to just, you know, bam! But I can never do that again. You know? And I was cool, which is why, you know, if you do drink alcohol and you're going through some intense stuff, you know, do what you feel. But I can just say, you know, from my own perspective, it's better to stay away from alcohol. And if you must drink it, because I have drunk it and I felt like it helped me. You know, there were these times in my life where I really felt like I needed it, or I just needed to try it again so that I can be more conscious about it. And that brings me back to Amanita muscaria, because the last experience, I had one in my room which was nice, and then the last experience I just drank it out in the open, and what I entered was, I don't know, it just seemed like the underworld. I'm just saying, you know, this is a heavy topic because everybody's so afraid. But please imagine you would just think, oh yeah, Christopher said that's really good and you should do it. I mean, you can certainly have a panic attack. And if you have no experiences in your life that give you a point of reference where you can anchor yourself to and say, hey, I've survived that, and whatever is going to happen is just going to be an experience that is going to help me grow, you know, then going into some kind of, you know, psychedelic dungeon party with electronic music and just throwing mushrooms, you know what's gonna happen. If people get too close to you, you don't know what's going to happen, to who you're going to open up. People may rape you on the toilet. I mean, these things happen. It's not just roofies. You know, people can just make you drunk, and then in the end everybody says it was roofies. You know, I don't know what roofies are, but you know, if somebody gives me a drink, I don't just think he's a friend. You know, I'll make sure the drink looks like, you know, that it's closed, that it's sealed. Otherwise I wouldn't drink it. But it's not a guarantee. You know, the best thing you can do is just always buy the drinks yourself. You know, I don't want to sound like Mad Eye Moody, but constant vigilance kind of got to me, if you know what I mean. Constant vigilance kind of got to me, because I realized I was in situations where it seemed like everything was all right, but I just kept feeling, I don't know, surges of anxiety just coming up, like clear warnings: stay away, stay away, stay away. And I have made a choice ever since. And I said, I stay away from these areas where I met these people, you know, that just suddenly were there and gave me MDMA. And I took it. And I think it was good of me to do so. For me, personally. Because I learned something from it. What I can never say is, you know, I just said stay away from angry men because I carry something. I don't know, everybody carries something, but I've seen what people are doing to their own inner child, right? I've seen what people are doing to their own inner child. And sometimes I have to choose myself over others, which is why I mean, I had to stop where I just stopped. You know, this now feels uncomfortable, very uncomfortable. Why? Maybe it's just the presence of others. I don't know, I'm just gonna hold it like this because sometimes that's just what I prefer. because I don't want to film private areas. I just want to make sure that I deliver the message. How did I feel with the fly agaric? Yeah, it doesn't matter, everyone knows what I mean. I drank the tea in a pub, in a cafe, but I remained calm. Although sometimes I feel like, you know, you can certainly lose track of reality. I know how to deal with that. If you don't know how to deal with that, you may just have a panic attack. And you may just, because, go berserk. That's what this is, berserk. And that's what happened, you know, when people say, you know, the Vikings, they never really showed that in the serious Vikings, probably because they didn't want people to think it was a good idea. You know, they only showed it when they did these sacrifices and they gave this offering of blood to the gods. Question is that necessary? You know, if a god needs a blood offering, do you want to worship him? But, I mean, that point is clear. It's, you know, I mean, the god of war exists. Is his name Kratos? I think that's a song from Chris Webby. You know, he exists. And question, is it necessary? Well, I think sometimes we just have to seclude ourselves from these ideas we have about basically anything. Because, I mean, roots are drinking the blood. I mean, plants have blood. You know, let it be green or whatever. But plants have blood. Animals have blood. And roots are crushing dead animals, you know, and they're being disintegrated. So yeah, war exists and it will always exist. And I just watched Troy, and what Achilles says, it will never end. And that's a fact. This will never end. I mean, it will change. You know, societies come and go. There will probably be times of upheaval and then times of, you know, there's like revolutions. You know, what does Terence McKenna say? Every generation needs a revolution. And then there's like the French Revolution, and then there's like, I don't know, the German Revolution. There's like environmentalists, and then there's, you know, all kinds of things. You know, things are happening, that's all we can say. Things are happening, and I was just reluctant to leave the house because I thought it would weaken me. And now you can ask yourself, why did I leave the house, you know? What a terrible experience, she touched my face, you know, I'm defiled now. Yeah, I mean, that's one thing, it's like fear of being touched. I really wanted to say something, but she just kept touching me. And then the question is, why? Because I was handsome and pretty, or because she thought, oh, you know, why is his skin so soft? Oh, you know, I want to see you. You know, I want to bathe you. You know, that's the feeling she gave me, because, yeah, I've got a little child inside of me. But, you know, I can take care of myself, right? So to express that in that moment, when she asked me, and it was very good of me, I think, to first speak English, just to startle her a little. Because if you show her that you can communicate in different languages, it just clearly sets you apart from everyone else, because I know few people that can actually talk English. And what I generally think is that people that like to go in nature are generally more trustworthy than people that are in cities all the time. That's just what I think, you know. People who are spending a lot of time in nature are generally more trustworthy. But at the same time, if I don't see you in nature, how do I know that you go there often? Well, I can have a feeling, you know, you do see people who seem more clean than others. I'm just talking so much, man. There's just so much to say and I can never say it all, right? Because every time I say one thing, I want to say something else. And then of course I talk about, you know, I mean, if we talk about psychedelics, then I would say that the fly agaric is probably one of the most controversial ones. You know, it's said to make you asleep. Well, what I experienced certainly shook me up. And it opened me up to the possibility that I may be manipulated into going to places and taking psychedelics there, you know. And that if I have such feelings, you know, I have done these things. I have taken truffles in cities, but I was also, you know, I've already talked about these situations everywhere in my content. I think certainly in Transcendence of Life as We Know It, which is my way to, I mean, that's just what you have to understand. The life that I'm living needs some form of self-therapy. What I mean with that is, what I'm experiencing is so intense that I can never talk to anybody about it. Because if I open my mouth and I talk about these things, then, you know, I can tell you what's happening, but that's just what's happening to me. It's not what's happening to you. And you may stay away from these experiences because you never felt drawn to them. And then you think, you know, I'm your friend, or you are my friend. And then, you know, just put down the camera and go to pee. Okay? She was strong. I like this woman. She was a strong woman. She certainly had strength. And I like strength. You know, I can judge her for the shape of her body or for whatever. But she had strength. And she did recognize me, you know. I do think that I did shake her up. And that's what you have to understand. You never know what kind of a experience someone else will have if you walk around, you know, in your own, you know, space of truth. Because I certainly carry my own truth around, which says, hey, I walk in bare feet. I wear these clothes. This is more than unusual. And more than unusually welcome to some people. You know, to meet someone like me, and that's what I have to open up to. And that's what the challenge is. To not just retreat away from society and always run away from people. You know, because she never met anyone like me. Otherwise, she would have known that being in bare feet could be beneficial. It might even remind her of her own childhood, because she clearly came from somewhere else. And she may remember the days where she was barefoot in the forests and how she loved it. And then she sees me and then she just acts like she's been told to act ever since she maybe moved somewhere else or whatever. And you know, suddenly all of this is happening and she's trying to fight it. She's trying to fight it, she's trying to fight it, she's trying to fight these emotions of remembering and all of that, and then suddenly it's like, it's happening. Something's happening. You know, it's happening. And suddenly you're being reborn. And all of this shit that you've been dumped on, or that was dumped onto you, is just falling away. It's just falling away, it's just falling away, it's just falling away. And it just scares you. It scares you, it scares you, it scares you to such an incredible amount. I mean, there's no way to express it. There's no way to express it ever. And that's what has happened to me. You see how much I talk, or you hear it. You see how much I put into my art. And one image may contain 1,000 beings or versions of myself. But also, you know, I see you. What I realized and what I learned to accept is that everyone I meet is their own being. But I may see something of myself in them. I may see things that scare me, that remind me of myself, right? If you see me walk barefoot in the forest and that makes you angry, and that may be just a part you're trying to keep away from yourself, you know, like that truth that something's been nagging on you and telling you, what are you doing? Right? What have you been doing to yourself? You came from the forest and now you turned into this highly addicted, you know, under-evolved. We talk about evolution. You know, evolution never stops. But society has stopped. They're not evolving anymore. I mean, science, is my perspective, is just a dead end. Just another dead end. And when the scientific trip is over, you know, we'll find ourselves in nature and we're gonna see the ruins of past civilizations until, you know, everything's forgotten and somebody thinks, hey, maybe it would be a good idea to learn how to make fire again, right? Maybe the time is ripe. I think maybe now we can take responsibility and make fire. And then you start making fire, and from making fire, you know, you go the next step, and suddenly you're, yeah, exactly. Where are you? You know, what's the next step? From making fire, you know, it's like building a nuclear bomb. You know, I'm just saying. Or having brothels, right? Because suddenly I've got power and I can stay warm in winter, right? I mean, the most humbling thing about winter is that there's like nothing. I mean, you make sure, like the squirrel makes sure that it works extra hard in summer so that in winter it can, you know, use the stock that it created for itself. And, you know, if you manage to work hard in summer, then you may have like a good winter. I actually don't know how squirrels work, like, you know, I mean, in order to find all these, or maybe they don't do that to eat them at all. Maybe they just do it because the squirrel thinks, I'm planting trees, you know? I'm planting trees, you know? Oh yeah, I'm planting trees, you know? You know? I'm a child of Mother Nature. I'm planting trees. I'm planting trees. Oh boy, how many trees are gonna grow out of this one, you know? Oh wow, I was so busy, you know? The forest's really gonna strive. You know, that's one way of seeing it. But we're so fixed upon thinking that we observe these animals and we think, you know, oh yeah, the poor squirrel, you know, look at it hiding all these nuts so it can survive the winter, and maybe the squirrel doesn't give a shit about its own survival. It just wants to plant trees, right? Well, that's certainly what's also happening, because it doesn't remember, and maybe that's just an offering, right? Maybe the squirrel is a really conscious being. I'm just saying. And the reasons animal bite, you know, a squirrel would bite a human is because the human is just an idiot. And while a squirrel is busy planting trees, you know, it's like a god. I mean, you know, if humans are like gods, then animals are like gods. But then there are different kinds of gods. And then we just think, yeah, we're creating this. Yeah, what does the squirrel do then? You know? What do all these animals do? Don't they create it? Don't they eat the food and shit, and that's then, you know, it's being fermented and, you know, nutrition, and then die. I mean, we're all part of the cycle. You know, what do we think makes us so special? Right? I really love dumping on humans because, you know, it just pisses me off how full of themselves humans are. You know, like, oh, we're the best. You know, we're the best. We know what's going on. No, we don't. Nobody knows what's going on, and that's the best expression of what's going on. Nobody knows. All I can do is, you know, what's my job? You know, I'm planting trees in people's minds. That's what I think I'm doing. I'm like planting trees in people's minds. You know, better concepts. You see me in bare feet, you think I need help. You know, I look at you, I think you need help. And maybe I just helped you, just by giving you the image of a man that can stand at 5 degrees Celsius in this kind of a weather and be healthier than you are, you know? Because you may think he doesn't know what he's doing, but he does. And maybe I think you don't know what you're doing, but maybe you do. But then what was your message? Because I didn't talk to you. You know, I stood there and you thought I needed something, because that's how society works these days. You know, everybody thinks they need something. And it's quite interesting, because I did start to call the radio, and it was really weird because my radio was turned off. I turned it off. First turned it on. It pissed me off, I turned it off. 10 minutes later or so, it just turned on by itself. It just turned on by itself. Okay, what was that? And suddenly there was a program on Black Friday. And I'm just looking for ways to, you know, introduce my ideas, you know, into the world. And one way of engaging is, you know, calling the radio and saying, I have an opinion. And then they say, what's your opinion? And then you say it. And then they decide whether or not you can be allowed to speak. So I also make sure that, you know, what I say at first is kind of what I'm going to say later. And there's a lot of deep insight, because who has a life like mine? With these experiences, with this kind of background, having studied environmental protection, you know, having done all of these things, having, you know, being able to speak English at such a high level, being able to communicate his emotions, you know, in such a clear way, you know, relatively clear. But at least, you know, being able to just talk. And talking is also a method. But it only works if you talk truth, if you let go into speaking, if you just let the words flow. And you can never do that in the presence of others, which is why I started to have a podcast. But if I would have started the podcast and would have just thought, yeah, you know, tomorrow I'm going to be famous, you know, I would have been in for... You know, if I ever would have stopped, it would have never worked. I had to continue, just as the squirrel continues. You know, when it feels like it's dying, it has to eat. you know, or do something. And that's what I'm going through. I just felt like I had no energy, but I wanted to leave the house, only I couldn't. So I was waiting for the right moment. And then I said, you know, fuck it. What's the point of holding on to all of this food? I'm just gonna eat some. And so I ate. And then I rendered videos. You know, I made like a new jingle for Find Me in Nature, which I think this is part of. Because I'm just looking for ways. And because talking is the safest way to just, you know, leave behind some trigger words. You know, I actually thought I would come here for mushrooms. But to be honest, I'm kind of reluctant at the moment because the last experience I had was... I mean, it took me a while to get back here. But at the same time, you know, as a... You know, we cannot just act like, you know, shamans don't exist. We cannot just act like shamans don't know what you're doing. And I think what the message is, you know, what shamans are really doing is just doing what they feel. I mean, you are being called to shamanism. You don't just say, oh yeah, I think that's nice. Or maybe you do. But then also be in for a tough ride. I mean, that is what I perceive to be the ultimate challenge. Diving into the self, experiencing states of consciousness, but it doesn't just stop with, you know, drinking ayahuasca and having parties. No, it's also, you know, what does coffee do? What does sugar do? You know, what do these things do that we ingest? These ideas, these thoughts, these mentalities, these delusions we feed ourselves just to, you know, keep believing that we're doing really good, yeah? But are we? Are we? You know, I just have to see someone sit in a car. The body is withering away. And so the spirit is withering away. And you go home and you eat shit and you feel powerful. But what is happening is you're withering away. On your sofa, on your couch. You never see anything other than the screen of your phone. And I mean, sure, no wonder the guy in Cyberpunk Edge Runner was so miserable, so angry, and had to be so like, ah! Because society, you know, whatever we think society is just terrible. It's just so terrible. I mean, not just a bit. It's just so terrible. I mean, this, if you know how to deal with it, this is the real deal, man. This is what we have to get back to. And it's so hard to make the jump from being at home in this comfort. You know, I'm an active practitioner of Zen. Zen meditation, my friend. That's the ultimate thing. Because you carry your meditation wherever you go, and it's trying to be as comfortable as you can be. And I think Terence McKenna was certainly a practitioner of Zen, if you want to put a name to it. Okay, that one's bad. Okay, I think the time... Yeah, the time is over. Or maybe, you know, it's just too wet. So why did I pick it and why did I drop it? It was a feeling I had. This may have terrible consequences for myself. Because if this area is protected by some kind of spirit that I cannot just see, you know, coming here and doing this may make it really angry. I'm just saying. You know, I have experienced dreams where elves visited me. Like really intense dreams. You know, where they just scared me into, you know, don't do this. You know? Have some respect. I'm just going here because I just want to show you. But there's certainly... I have the feeling I'm being attacked. And that may be just because of disrespect. Because energetic attacks are very hard to see or perceive. Which is why all I can do is just push through the fear. Just keep going. Remember to breathe. Nothing is really safe. Because, and that brings me back to what I've talked about earlier. Now I'm getting to the good stuff. Because there are spirits, and you know, I can say even I, but I can also just say I have problems to see what's really real. I mean, if we listen to Carlos Castaneda and what he talks, you know, Don Juan, what he talks about, according to Carlos Castaneda, he says that there are sometimes things that come to you that are no humans, that are like teachings, but you have to listen, you have to pay attention. And so even if I walk around in a city and I believe in these spiritual things, you know, what is some kind of an apparition? What is some kind of an apparition, and what is, you know, really a true human being? Right, I cannot say. I know that last time I went to this pub and I drank the tea, also while I was there. What I did was I realized something, that I thought I played a computer game with a woman, but it was some kind of energy transaction. And she looked like super sexy and super tough. She had her hair like in a specific way. And when we were through with that, suddenly, you know, and she left and she said, I'm gonna smoke a cigarette. You know, it once also said, stay away from women that smoke cigarettes. Whatever that means. Well, I think it's clear what it means, that she's being like distracted from herself. Tobacco, normally, I'm not sure if it should be smoked. You know, unless you know what the tobacco is feeding, what kind of traits in yourself, what kind of thoughts. I feel like my thoughts have been getting better ever since I stopped smoking. And I really distance myself from this idea that I need psychedelics. I feel like I also want to lead kind of a normal life, but I think at this stage, whatever I think normal is, you know, it's just very insecure at the moment, and that right now I'm being guided to just continue on my way, to just move on, just simply walk and keep walking, and to just see, you know, who I'm going to meet. So who did I just meet? Well, I don't know. Let's say she was just a concerned mother. You know, every time I meet people, everything is so wobbly. Everybody looks kind of different, you know. But every time I also meet people, the reason that they look different is because I have a different perception of myself, which if I get closer to my own truth, you know, I'm gonna see your truth much better. Which is why, you know, if I think back of the friends I used to have, you know, if I see them now, you know, it's clear what happened. First of all, also, just having a father that is at least there, that can support you, you know, does make, you know, create a very different experience for the child than, you know, a son that, but I think it's just bullshit. You know, I just meet so many people that had no fathers because the father left or whatever, and they just live their lives like something's missing. But why? I mean, I live in that sense alone. Okay, I have support, but even if I hadn't the support, I would probably, I don't know, right? What would happen to me right now if my parents would say, yeah, we cannot do this anymore, you have to fend for yourself, you know, if you cannot pay the apartment, then you just have to, you know, see, you know, where you're gonna go. Whew. Yeah, it would be tough. What would I do? Right now, you know, I just ate. I know I can always go back. You know, now I feel good. But how am I gonna feel in 5 days' time, and where am I gonna land? Well, who's to say, you know? Am I to say? You know? Okay, this one is better. I don't know, I'm just here to pick things at the moment. Please be aware that you never know. Smell it. I don't know, there are just things that I have to experience, and once you start with something, you know, the question is whether you want to continue with it or not. I've been here before. I'm just going through my own development, and when there should ever be a woman by my side, she has to simply accept that in terms of size, it says smaller is better. You know, I don't want a woman that's like really big, and that's just what I feel. You know, I don't want a woman that's like really big. I also do think that whatever happens to me, in terms of also, you know, okay, I go in the forest and I pick a mushroom. Do I have to say a prayer? Or is it enough if I keep this place of, you know, I'm grateful for being alive? I don't think you always have to go to your knees and like, oh, thank you, because, I mean, nature is also there, you know. If I'm just grateful for being alive and I just keep on living, then why do I always have to like fall down on my knees and be like, oh? You know, I don't really think that's necessary. That's just my perspective. Right, so, you know, these things are very individual. I've met people who, when they brew ayahuasca, they just have to like, right, they have this prayer music so that they can hold their consciousness. I mean, you could just do it in silence. There's no need to play music. But music can certainly help. But you can also do it without. You know, and when I do my prayer and I think about, you know, now I'm getting to the good stuff. Sometimes you have to just sort out some things. So I'm never recommending, I keep repeating that, never ever I'm just saying, you know, I just pick these. You know, I'm not gonna film what I do with them. I may talk about it. But this is the right that I have, you know. They can say it's dangerous. You know, just like drinking a coffee can be dangerous. You may get a heart attack. But who's really warning you from that? Who's really warning you from that, right? I mean, I could walk here, I could slip, break my neck, you know. Even talking about it could manifest it if I allow it to get to me. So if I allow fairies to haunt me, you know, I liked the experience that I had. But I certainly also learned a bit about respect, where I said, okay, you know, we went to nature, and you know, we scared some geese, and then I did rapé at night, and I had this dream, and like stuff was happening. I was like looking in the mirror, and there was like, you know, like, I don't know, stuff running through my face. It's like blue veins or something. And then I was realizing that I was lying in bed. It was, you know, I think it was supposed to intimidate me. But who wanted to intimidate me? That's another story. So I was lying in bed, and I think it was a clear sign. But, you know, clear sign to just never do these things. I had a vision of myself lying in bed. So I realized I was lying in bed. No, I was lying in bed, I couldn't move. And at the same time there was somebody, you know, there was like these little blue things walking around the room. And they were like pinching my toe, and I just couldn't move. And it was scary, to say the least. Very scary. Very, very scary. And, you know, I cannot say at the moment what the never never is supposed to be. This is a phrase that I have in my head, and it says never go back to the never never. And what's the never never? I think what it really means is never go back to saying never. You know, it says never say never, and I would like to say never quite often because it makes me feel powerful. If I say never, then it has a hold on me. If I say never am I going to do this, well, there's certainly some kind of, you know, I don't know many people who do what I do. I know that they exist. I cannot say if they exist in the same way that I exist. You know, I don't know. I do what I do, and I have to know where I'm going, and then I just continue to go there. You know, so that I don't get overly distracted from my path. So if I leave the house and somebody comes and says, "Oh, you poor guy, you know, shouldn't you wear shoes?" And you say, what do you mean? I mean, you're trying to tell me that I'm gonna get sick? I mean, to me, just an observation, but, you know, I think you look sick. You know, I try to tell her, just by switching her perspective around a little, by not allowing her to intimidate me into, you know, buying me shoes. Because women can do this sort of thing. They can kind of bewitch you. And men can do the same, of course. But women, of course, do it in a much more subtle way. You know, with their eyes like, ah. You know, and then they try to promise you all these things. But they can certainly bewitch you. I've had that. You know, I've had women try to bewitch me into having sex with them. Because then they could bind me to them, and I just never, you know, in most of these cases, I just never gave into it. And it's hard to say why, because I made experiences. Oh, hello nature, right? I just made a lot of experiences with women already. And then once you say, you know, I will never sleep, you know, I don't know, you just say I will pick a woman. And still now I'm not sure. I mean, I'm serious about it. Still now I'm not sure. Because, I don't know. Cannot sex be just a form of expression between man and woman? Well, how much could it change your life to jump from one woman to the next? And if you find one that you feel good with, where you at least assume, you know, this may be good and that's the one, whatever, but I'm just trying to let go of these ideas I have of what's supposed to happen, because what I've realized is that nothing ever happened with any other woman after that one, you know? I never had the feeling, you know, maybe before I got closer, you know, I would have these fantasies, you know, I could have sex with her, you know, I could do this and I could do that, but every time I got closer, I had the feeling this wasn't me at all. I mean, I never wanted to have sex with any of them. And that's when we talk about women that can bewitch you. If you feel like you found your soulmate, and to you it's actually clear that you only want her, but she's somewhere else and she may want to test you, you know, there are women that can send you other women just to test you. And if you then sleep with her, well, then you're clearly not who she thought you were. Or then she can just, you know, overpower you and say, you know, now you screwed up. You know, now I can also sleep with someone else. So she can get out of the soul bond. And see, I cannot say what that means. What is a soul bond? You know, if a man says, I want the woman, and then he's really fixed on her, and he feels like, you know, he can, let's say, tame her, then she may want to get out of this bond. But that only works if the guy lets go, right? Or just behaves really stupid. And sure, women can be infuriating. For whatever reason, you know. I don't understand any of this. I'm just talking myself through my own confusion. Because nobody ever taught me this. I was born into a system of lies, you know. Lies, lies, lies. Even these clothes are kind of lies, right? Even I have my own lies. So when I called the radio today, what I did was... Well, what did I do? Well, I said... You know, I called because they were talking about Black Friday, and, you know, the guy before me, he called and he said something about... You know, he was just like... Black Friday is really bad, and consumerism. Yeah, but you're using a phone to call here, you know, and you're listening to the radio, you know. You're certainly contributing to whatever is happening here. So, I mean, I like my comfort because it's there, but it's only half true, you know. If I would just set up a laptop here, it just wouldn't work. I mean, if you want to write books and you would just stand here in bare feet and try to write, you know, first of all, where are you going to get the electricity from when the battery is running low? You know, it's just too complicated. And at the moment, that's just the job that I'm doing, to introduce people to new concepts. You know, it's just a very sneaky way of detaching humans from their phones and from society by, you know, just Because of course, who's gonna watch this? People who are desperate enough to listen to someone like me. You know, to the weird guy. Because nobody who already knows what's going on is probably gonna watch this. And maybe they are. You know, maybe I'm gonna be Mr. Famous, you know? Maybe I'm gonna be the Justin Bieber of spirituality. And maybe I'm gonna be, you know, just the weird dude that nobody gives a crap about. But it's very unlikely. Because whatever you may think of me, you know, the art that I have been doing is clearly something that sets me apart from a lot of other people who think they can talk about spirituality. Well, they have no idea what they're talking about. They just sit at home and they just act like they know what's going on, but they don't. And I just know that. Just have to look at them, you know? You just have to see one guy who does yoga poses in these tight pants and you know he clearly has no idea what's going on. And maybe he just wears them because, you know, he wanted to have more followers. Maybe he thought he was doing good. But nobody does good ever, you know? Because, you know, what's good? You know, what's doing good? Because if I talk here openly about spirituality and you start on your journey and you think, oh wow, like, I mean, he's making it look like really nice, and then you start, you don't know the shit that I go through because I don't film myself. I mean, okay, I have filmed myself, and that's the genius thing, you know, I filmed myself almost the whole time. You know, when it got really intense, you know, I just started recording everything, and that's just, you know, the path of a yogi. But, I mean, if you would be in the same situation as I am right now, you know, just, we would switch. You know, you would wear my clothes, but you would have your body. And your mindset and everything, you would be in this situation, you would feel like you're gonna die. You would be cold, you wouldn't have any shoes, you wouldn't have any cover for the rain, you would have nothing. And then you would have to do the job that I'm doing. You would have to talk about, you know, highly emotional subjects, you know, without giving into like, you know, shouting at the camera and just being really miserable. And then you would have to get home, you know, you would have to also, you wouldn't have a phone right now, you wouldn't have a torch. Now it's getting dark. You would have nothing, you know, and that's probably a really far stretch from what you know. So, you know, if you look at me through a camera, it may seem really easy, you know, but doing it, you know, it's really nice to order rapé. Yeah, it's like, oh wow, you know, I'm looking forward to this. Yeah, and then you have it, you have to take it, and then sometimes the message is not at home. You can do it at home maybe once, or maybe the message is you have to go to nature. It's like, okay, yeah, it's raining, but your feeling is very clear on it. You have to do it. And you don't know what's gonna happen. But you go there, you do it, and then suddenly, you know, you have to go back. And I've had things where I was almost crawling, where doing the rapé just knocked me out because I was alone. And that's just what it is. And again, I'm not advertising doing rapé because, I mean, this is nothing for the faint-hearted. This life that I'm leading only looks nice and clean and comfortable, but it's not for the faint-hearted. The way I have designed or shaped my apartment that has been given to me is an expression of myself. It's the cave that helps me to channel all of this energy without going insane, my friend. Being a content creator comes with a cost. You know, putting yourself on display out in the internet And the reason why I turn off my comments everywhere is because I don't want people to tell me what to do. And I don't want to get distracted by, you know, what people have to say about anything. You know, this is not about what you have to say. This is about what I have to say. And I have to say a lot of stuff. And I have trained talking and being true and honest, which is why every time I feel like I'm being distracted by ideas of hatred or whatever, I always know how to realign myself to the light. I know how to dive into shadow. I know how to get back into the light. Why I know that? It's just what I know. So I can also take psychedelics on my own and know that, you know, I think I'm going to be fine. But there's never a guarantee. There's never a guarantee that you're going to be fine. It's just the idea that you have. You know, I think I'm going to be fine. And then you say, all right. You know, why do I have this? Because first of all, I have a lot of experiences with this. But that's not a guarantee, because what I went through clearly showed me that it's not just about making experiences, it's also to go through them a million times after you've made them, to kind of obsess about what the teachings were. Because if I would just make the experiences and then just keep going and going and going, you know, I would die. And I've been there. Where I realized now I need to stop. Now I need to take a break. Now I need to calm down a little. Now I need to pay attention again to myself, because, you know, making experiences outside is really nice, right? And you walk around and you see all these things and, you know, it's all that stuff. But the truth is, it's also easy to lose yourself. You know, you can lose yourself outside of yourself and you can lose yourself inside of yourself. And that brings me back to Rumo and the Wonders in the Dark by Walter Moers. For Germans, you know, this is a very nice Rumo und die Wunder im Dunkeln. I've spoken about this a number of times. It's an audiobook. It's also a book, but I prefer the audiobook. It's probably not as good in English because the German is just ingenious because of the guy who read it. But I don't know. I just learned a lot about it. I just learned a lot by listening to it. Just about myself also. That I like these weird and crazy things. But I still have all these insecurities that may bubble up when I'm in the middle of an intense experience. And then I have to know how to deal with that, which is just breathe. You know, right now, you know, you would think my feet were warm, but they're cold. Well, you know, shouldn't your feet get used to it now? Well, I don't know. Should they? You know, I cannot compare myself. I mean, I assume that usually people would wear shoes. You know, I mean, was Don Juan ever? I mean, was he ever in sub-zero temperature conditions? I mean, he lived somewhere there in Mexico. I assume it's kind of hot, but, you know, maybe they have cold nights. But maybe it never gets colder than... I mean, I've been in minus 20 degrees Celsius. And that was my first winter in Norway, which I can never prove to you. But, you know, I just always speak the truth. So why would I say it if it's not true? You know, I'm not a politician. You know, I do advertise the spiritual experience, but I also say, unless you really want to do it, I mean, I assume that whoever's watching this is already doing it anyway. Because no matter who you are, you're in it. There is no escaping from spirituality. So what spirituality is a set of, there is nothing where you say, okay, I'm gonna choose. No, you are a spiritual being. Because there is spirit inside of you. And no matter how much you want to eat and get away from this, it's impossible. It's impossible because that's you. I mean, you are this spiritual being and you can never run away from it. But for me, it was just never enough to just read books. And sometimes I met people who lived their life at home and they just read all these books, but they never did anything with it. And then suddenly I met them and I don't know, we did stuff together and I just like, boom, boosted them into the next phase. And then I was boosted into the next phase. And then I also was holding on. And then I always thought, it was them trying to hold on to me. But then it wasn't that at all, I also hold on. I mean, I'm also scared and I'm afraid. And I'm happy if women do spend time with me, right? I have all these things, There was a friend that I met earlier and, I'm just saying, there was already a bit of intimacy. I don't know. What does it mean to have sex with a woman? Nobody can explain that to me. And there are no directions, right? If I would have been born into a different society, there would have been a real direction, There's always seduction. But then, I don't know who's seducing me, Who is seducing me? Did the last woman I slept with, was that the seduction? And now is gonna come the real one? Do you know what I mean? That's just what I don't understand. So I find life complicated. I have to realign myself all the time. So before I would sleep with a woman, I would make sure, that this is the right direction. I also would make sure that she would be, and that's where I'm completely insecure about. Do I even have to worry about these things? Or is it just, man and woman meet, you like each other, you have sex, Maybe there's gonna come a child out of this, Do I have to take responsibility for this child? And that's the world that we live in. If you father a child, they're gonna make sure that you're gonna pay for it. Not necessarily, but that's just what I think because of my own upbringing. Oh, damn it. Now it's like the short route where all the cars go, or the fast route, the slow route, I can go left. That's gonna take longer. But sometimes you just, I feel like, defecation is certainly an option. Apart from the mental defecation. So why not just take a step, right? So I do also feel that if I were to take psychedelics with what I know today, I will probably do it at home, in a safe environment. I would make sure that there's no knives or sharp objects lying around, because I do certainly feel that if there is like scissors, sometimes I feel like, they could be used to injure myself. So if you feel really insecure, just don't do it then. I mean, it's freedom of choice, my friend. If you take something, you cannot blame me for talking about it. You cannot blame me for talking about it. You cannot blame people for selling these things, because you are responsible for yourself. And that goes the same, if you've, taken, let's say, you know, you've been injected something into your body because it was said that, you know, it's gonna help you, you know, and make you live longer, and then suddenly you feel like it's making you sick. Well, you know, worse things have been done out of ignorance. Because the truth that is always there, that we live in a world that creates things like Black Friday, where people just go in these insane shopping sprees. It's just like, ah, you know, and they forget that it's actually not cheaper, you know, because you're paying for it with your life. You know, you're just buying an electric bike because you think that's the thing that you need. Well, you don't realize that's just gonna make you weak. It's just gonna make you weak, because that's what electric bikes do. And that's what the comfort zone does, and that's what all electronics do. Because, you know, I'm the guy who would rather take, you know, who just would refuse a chainsaw. I would just, you know, saw it myself and then let it take 5 days to go through the wood. Or maybe, you know, 3 months. But then that kind of thing only works if you're like really out there in nature, living there. But if you have to earn money at the same time, I mean, unless you could maybe do it, you know, create like 1 year of YouTube videos in advance and then make money with that, you know, then you could in the meantime travel the world and, you know, cut wood with an axe and your bare hands and just like, you know, live a different kind of life, which is probably why I'm doing this kind of stuff. But there's still not a guarantee. I just realized I have potential, and what I realized even more is that there was nothing I wanted to give that potential to, because nobody wanted to listen to me, nobody wanted to change their ways, nobody wanted to or was even able to understand what I was trying to tell them. Because if you live your life in this idea that you are a boss, it's hard to listen to others, right? Because you think, you know, yeah, I'm the boss, and then you're just gonna sit around and be lazy. And I've met these people, and I clearly said, nope, I have no interest in contributing to the industry any longer. You know, that's like my forefathers, you know, I'm moving away from that. You know, other people can do it. As long as this thing exists, I'm gonna deal with it in some way, which means, you know, I'm gonna deal with it in some way. I'm going to say, you know, I'm here, I'm alive, I'm trying to fight for nature, right? Rather against other humans, which is why today when I called the radio, what I did was, you know, they were asking me, fallen leaves, you know, they were asking, not me specifically, but the question that was being asked was about Black Friday. You know, is it good, is it bad? And when I called, I said, you know, I studied environmental protection, and there were times where I really hated all of this, but I just didn't want to look at society through, you know, glasses of hate. Because for all it's worth, I do enjoy the comfort as long as it lasts. But I can also prepare myself for the discomfort. And I know what I went through. But if I would go there like a complete extremist and just say, I hate Black Friday, you know, what does that do? It just feeds into the hate. But it's all relative. I mean, if it helps someone to buy shit and then give it back, you know, go for it. You know, it's like your choice. Freedom of choice. Why should I sit at home and hate Black Friday because it's destroying nature? Well, you're using a phone, do you not? You know, you're using a phone to call the radio. What a hypocrite. And then you complain about Black Friday. Well, where did you get your phone from? You probably bought it on discount. You know, why don't you live in the forest already? Yeah, well, because, you know, it's harder than it looks. Yeah, exactly. All these, you know, people are so confused. You know, they just call there because they think it's the right thing to do, but they never do anything. Because it's not enough to just go in the forest and just plant trees. No! We need to then kind of band together. And just because I think that's the position I'm supposed to have is like hating Black Friday, which was even the position I felt like the radio people had. And you know, I'm just so hard to grab because sure, I have my position, but I don't have to rub it into your face because I know already what I feel and I think. And everything I say is an expression of that anyway. And if I want to be in Zen, then I have to be chilled. And because I talk a lot and I feel like, you know, I could be in interviews and I'm certainly asking for it, then I also have to be able to live through, you know, being asked questions that are very uncomfortable by reporters. You know, being like trying to be pointed out as the real culprit because everybody can know, you know, just by my smirk or by the look in my eyes that I know something because I've looked. I've really looked. And because I've looked, I say, I mean, in this world today, you know, if sitting at home and watching a movie helps me to stay sane and to survive, then I call that self-love. And then I call that preservation of life, my own life, which is what is important to me, right? Because I'm the only thing that I can basically keep alive. And if I learn to live my life in such a way, you know, that I can, you know, instead of just buying new movies all the time, you know, I bought a camera to talk to the public about whatever I'm going through. So that others that may be going through the same stuff may listen to it and see me smile nonetheless. I mean, if I would just walk for 5 minutes at this pace and bare feet at, I don't know, 4 or 5 degrees Celsius, okay, you know, then you could say, yeah, well. But if it's like, you know, for days and days, you know, there's like every day a video, and most of them are like 1 hour, some of them even 2, and I'm just talking non-stop. I mean, what else are you going to say? Because there's nothing I say that you can use. Okay, maybe the F word, right? There's nothing you can say. Because I know what I'm saying, you know, I'm not a politician, but I still know what I'm saying. And it's very clear what I say. You know, just by doing it, I'm already saying it. You want to know what I'm doing? This is what I'm doing. I want to grow. I want to be mentally strong for the children that, you know, I may have with a woman, my wife or whatever. You know, I want to create an example for a healthy human being. Yeah, here I am. You know, I'm like the billboard, you know, that's not fixed in one place. Okay, it is in the internet, but that's like walking around through the city, filming itself. You know, that's the advertisement that I can do. You know, I stand exactly for who I am. You know, I do not sit at home and talk about things that I have no idea about, because I've never even left the city where I was born into. You know, I traveled. When I came back from my travels, I realized that I had been scammed by, you know, the industry and whatever other people. But we're just scamming ourselves. I mean, if you're so ready to believe that, what other people are saying is true, then you may feel like you really want their love and all that kind of stuff. You know, all I think is, you know, if I don't manage to go for a walk, you know, at least once a week, you know, like a real walk, then there's something very wrong with the life that I'm being guided to live. You know, a life where I think I need an electric car because it's just the most, or an electric bike, just the most expensive bike I could buy at the moment. You know, I could also just buy a second-hand normal bike, or I could just learn to walk, or I could just learn to run, or I could just leave my phone at home. You know, I could just do whatever I want, you know, if I knew that I wanted it. But if I just spent my days doing what everybody else does and never thinking outside of this bubble because I'm afraid, you know, I'm so afraid, you know, I'm so afraid I might be wrong. This is literally, now it's, what's this? Oh, that was interesting. Suddenly the light turned on and I felt like somebody was hitting me over the head. But that's just the fact. You know, I changed because I started to question what was going on. I changed because I started to question. I started to question my cannabis smoking habits. I started to question my motivations for anything. I started to question, you know, other people's motivations of spending time with me. You know, if you want to, you know, if you hate being alone and then you just want to have friends, you know, what's the motivation of your friends to spend time with me, and why can't they be alone? And what is the cost of spending time with people that cannot be alone? Well, the cost is that you can never be alone, and then you feel like they need my help. And then I just said, you know what? Self-responsibility, mate. You know, survival of the fittest, right in your face. You know, if you cannot, I like this. It's a race. You know, it's selfish. I'm looking for my own best life. And if I'm holding back because, you know, I just think I have to help others or convince people that climate change is bad, you know, I just take away their responsibility. I cannot force you to understand that it is important to go into nature. I cannot force you. I cannot force you. But I can explain why I do it. You know, I can take the time and motivate others to learn how to communicate in a much better way, and to take the time to sit alone at home in silent darkness, you know, just like that, and just feel what you feel, and then just try to express it. And then if I drink a coffee, you know, I don't just drink a coffee to sit there and feel smug, you know. No, I drink a coffee because it helps me to push through, you know. And he would never manage to cycle that fast without an electric bike. So, you know, he doesn't have to fight now. He can just have a good time on his electric bike, you know, driving up this car-infested road, which is so loud and toxic that you have to really shout to be heard to even hear yourself. Just why, yeah, you know, that's just the way that it is. And you can just keep talking and keep talking and keep talking. And to me, it doesn't even matter anymore. I don't, you know, I just keep talking because I just don't know what else to do. You know, why do these videos have to be so goddamn long? Why does it matter? Apparently that's what I'm here to do. You know, it's a weird job. I don't know anyone who does this. I've never heard of anyone who, you know, pre-planned a whole year. You know, I'm not there yet, you know. And But I'm almost there, you know, I'm like almost in September now with production. You know, I don't know anyone who does this. And does it matter? No. Is it bad that I'm doing it? Well, I don't know, you know. I'm just stuck on it. You know, I just found something and I'm just clinging to it for dear life. You know, while other people are wasting their times in cars, waiting for the traffic light to turn red or to turn green, you know, and then they just turn to their phone. Whoa! Yeah. You see, that's life. And I just keep on going, right? People don't pay attention. They just are so in a rush to get home. No, I rather walk. And that's not safe either, because somebody could come, you know, and just fall asleep or just be stuck on typing a message on their phone, and they would just crash into me. And maybe I'm not paying attention, right? And now it just says like, that was one for your whatever. You know, I was literally waiting for this to happen. I was literally waiting for this to happen. I was waiting for something, you know, I've seen it, it's so strange, but not for myself. I've seen it for someone else. I had the feeling somebody would crash. So this could be just a symbol. This could be just a symbol for what's happening to someone else that I am in connection with. So I just keep on walking because I'm on my own path. You know, I don't have to like go there and talk to them and give them a good mood, because no, you just fucking screwed up. I don't have to, you know, make your experience seem better now, because you got yourself into this situation. You know, it was dark and it was rainy and you were driving way too fast and you were allowing your mind to slip away because you don't know any methods that keep you rooted in the center of yourself, which is the basic idea of meditation, which is what allows me to hike in bare feet, because I'm rooted to the spot, I'm grounded, I know about these things, I have informed myself, because I learned that if you just keep going and going and going, although you feel terrible and you hate it and you're in depression, you're just gonna land in the end, you know, in some kind of crater or whatever. I don't know. To me, it's just like, oh yeah, finally something happened, you know? Oh, thank God, you know? Finally I have something to talk about. You know, there may be people who even want this to happen, who just want to let go and die, and that's what happens. You know, if you let go and die in a car, or if you let go in a car, then you may actually die, or you might just really get injured. So be careful about what you think about, you know. I don't take psychedelics because I want to die, you know, and I did never take them. I did it because I wanted to live, because I wanted to get away from my ideas about myself, and I realized it works if you know what you're doing. If you don't know it and you want to kill yourself, well, welcome to Kurt Cobain's life. You know, welcome to Kurt Cobain's life. But mine is not like that, I think, but you never know. But I also, right, I do not take higher and higher dosages of psychedelics. You know, I do not take higher and higher dosages. And this is why when I walk here, I have to pay attention. I have to keep myself safe and sane, because it's a very fast-paced world. You know, things are weird. and I would prepare myself to be with a child at some point in my life. And that just takes time to get to. And to just stand tall and to know what you're doing. And you know, maybe I'm too fast in terms of signs. I think these things just happen all the time. You know? Just look at this. People are driving like idiots. You know, they just probably had 10 coffee, right? They just probably had 10 coffee. They don't even know what they're doing anymore. Then they get home and then they just get angry at their wife. You know, and then they beat up their child. And then they drink another coffee, then they smoke another cigarette, you know, and then they just get back to what they think is a good life. Which, you know, is why thoughts can never give you truth. You know, but emotions can. You know, I can think I hate my life, but why do I smile then, right? Why did I just smile when that happened? I don't know, because, you know, somebody just woke up, man. And maybe he crashed because he was seeing me walking barefoot with a camera. You know, it's impossible to know why he crashed. Okay, 23rd of 8 degrees Celsius. I don't think you could see that, doesn't matter. So, I cannot say what my life has in store for me. In certain ways, I just let go, but in a direction, right? You don't just let go when you're sitting in a car, because you don't know, right? Even, you know, I don't know, I could just see people having ingested psychedelics and just driving and putting on music and feeling, oh wow, you know, it's super nice. Yeah, but what if a deer just runs over the highway, or a man that has also taken psychedelics? You know what's gonna happen. You're just gonna crash into him, then you're gonna be traumatized for the rest of your life, and then you're just gonna hate yourself and, you know, leave your wife because you say, I could never, whatever. So what's it really matter? I don't think it really does matter. But what matters is that even though I did not want to do this, I did it anyway. And I do maintain this position towards other people that I kind of hate them. You know? Just to show you, stay the fuck away from me. And that's the F word again, stay the fudge away from me. You know, I can only be perceptive to a certain degree. So was this a sign? Maybe it was just like, you know, that's just society for you. Nobody needs cars. Nobody needs these houses. Nobody needs, you know, this terrible pavement, concrete. Nobody needs this shit. We just think we do. Because we try to, you know, go someplace better. You know, but the place you're looking for is inside of yourself, not outside of yourself. And once you've found that place inside of yourself, you can start projecting it outside of yourself. Which is why I rather go into nature. I discharge and recharge. You know, I discharge hate, recharge love, go back. Do I have to do this every day? Cannot say. You know, I felt like it. Maybe not tomorrow. And maybe, no, maybe this was stupid. Maybe I shouldn't have left the house. Now I was responsible. You know, I could think like this. Now I was responsible, you know, for people, they crashed and, you know. But it's not my job to keep everyone safe. So if I talk here about things and, you know, they like, you start feeling crazy, well, I've written books about it. You know, I feel like this all the time. So all I can say is, you know, if you're afraid of it, either work with it or try to forget it. Now, I could never forget the truth that I have seen. I could never forget what we are doing to nature, to our own nature, what we are doing to other beings, right? I could never forget these things, which is why I said, fuck it. You know, I'm never gonna work for the industry, not in that sense, but it's a different industry, because YouTube's also an industry. But that, you know, I can live with that, because in here, to a certain degree, you know, at least I can say what I feel, right? And nobody really tells me what to do. So that offers me a lot of freedom, but at the same time, to me, it still is, yeah, it's just a way to liberate myself from this crap. And that's just, I mean, Achilles did the same thing. You know, his way to liberate him was to fight and then to wait until he would die. And I'm not doing this to die. I know I'm going to die anyway. But as long as I'm alive, I'm just going to do this. So, you know, there's no way to leave if you've still got life left. And that's why if you do feel drawn to psychedelics, for whatever reason, you know, you just feel like you cannot help it, then also make sure that you stay strong. Because your mind needs to be strong, right? Your body needs to be strong. You just need to be able to keep yourself together and inform yourself, you know? That's what Terence McKenna also said. You know, you read about these things, and when you know enough, then you do it. You don't just do these things, unless you just do them, you know? And then we're back to self-responsibility. That's it.